Hi friends, I hope you are doing well. Myself Abhishek Tripathi, and after a long time, I'm preparing the video. Near about 3 weeks later, so I'm going to share final part of the fresh scripted engineering interview questions. So I'm going to start. So the question where they have asked, the have you connected to the REST API to receive data? So if yes, then how with example. So simply I tell yes, I'm able. I have done this activity. So they to you can connect to the REST API, receive data using PySpark. While PySpark itself does not have a built-in support for making HTTP request. You can use Python libraries like request to fetch data from the REST API and then convert the response into the Spark data frame to further processing. So I'm going to show the example, the way how I have done this activity. So for this, I have to do the some certain activity here. Like first, I have to install the required library, whatever required library required. Make sure you have the request library installed into your environment. Then bash, then pipe install request, and then fetch data from REST API. Then use the library to make get request to the API and fetch the data. Then after that, then convert the JSON into the pandas data frame, then convert JSON data, then convert that into the Spark data frame. So first of all, with example, I have written the code, a sample code for how you can do the things. So simply I have imported the request, then import JSON file, then pandas as a PDs, and from PySpark SQL import session. I have done this activity. Then what happened? I have created a Spark session. After that, I have defined the variable which contain the URL of the REST API. Then I have called one method is request.get and I have passed that URL here. Then whatever data it will fetch, it will store in the one variable that is a response. So once it will done, then it will check status whether whatever it is captured successfully or not. If response status equal to 200, whatever given on there, then it means it is successfully captured whatever required. After that, then it will convert whatever response is getting. I will convert into JSON file and store in one of the variable, and then there is a function JSON normalize, and I have passed particular that data variable whatever we have created, and create a one pandas data frame. Once it will created, then I will convert this pandas data frame into the Spark data frame here. Then after that, Spark df dot show, I will print and it will show the record whatever it is given on there. So if it is not a status code is not matching with 200, then it will fetch a give the error. So simple thing, this way I have achieved this issue. I have resolved this issue. So now another question, he has asked, have you aware of the term CDC? What is this and how it will work? So simply I told her, yes, I am familiar with the term CDC, which stands for the change data capture, and CDC is technique to used in databases and data processing systems to track and capture changes such as insert, update and delete made to the data into database. This allow for the efficient processing and replication of only the changed data rather than processing the entire database. So he asked how CDC is going to work on there. So simply there is a source database. We have a source database. CDC typically start in the source database where the data is initially stored and change mode to the data like insert, update, delete are tackled. So after that, there is a capture mechanism. So capture mechanism means, what is the capture mechanism? It's under there is a log based CDC. This method capture the changes by the reading the database transaction log or binary log. Every changes to the database is logged and CDC tools read these log to identify the change on there. In another trigger based CDC, another trigger based CDC. So trigger based CDC, this method uses database trigger to track changes when data in a table is modified. Trigger capture the changes and log it into the separate table and immediately replicate it. Another approach is table defining. This method involve periodically compare the current state of a table with a previous snapshot to identify changes. This is a less efficient and more resource intensive compared to the log based or trigger based method. So you have to keep in mind, if they are going to ask which is more if, efficient, more incentive and less efficient, so you have to give this answer for this one. Then another part is come with the processing the changes. The captured change are processed in the real time or in a batch, depend on the requirements. Processing might involve transformation the data, apply business rules before replication. So replication, another part is replication or integration. So replication or integration is nothing but the changes are the applied to the target system. This could be another database, a database warehouse or stream platform like any Apache Kafka. The goal is to keep the target system in the sync with the source by applying only the changes, not the entire database. So another point is data consumers. So data consumer like applications, analytical system, etc., can subscribe to these changes and process them as needed. For example, a real-time analytics system might processing the changes as they happen to update dashboard or triggered alert only. So what is the use case of this? What is the use case of this? So real-time data warehousing, keeping a data warehouse in sync with the source system with the without needing to reload all data. Data replication data between different database, data center or cloud environment is there. Event driven architecture. So the event driven architecture is nothing but triggering a downstream process or microservices when changes occur in the data. So ETL optimization, only extract and process the change data rather than entire data set, which can save time and resource. So we are working with we are knowing the incremental data and ad hoc data, full load, all things. So incremental data is taking less time as compared to the loading up the whole data. So this is the thing they are telling. CDC is a powerful approach to ensure that the data driven application have the most up to date information without the need for costly and time consuming full data load. So what kind of problem we will solve using the CDC? First, real-time data ingestion. Real time. I'm going to give the some example. A few two example for you for better understanding. So real-time data ingestion. What kind of problem? किस प्रकार की समस्या we will solve using the CDC? So real-time data ingestion. So problem is that business often need to integrate data from the multiple source in real time to make timely decision. So traditional batch processing method may not be fast enough to meet these requirements. So CDC solution. CDC allows for the continuous capture and replication of changes, ensure the data is different system like data warehouse, analytical platform or secondary database is always up to date. Second, minimize the data latency. Problem, high latency in data processing can lead to outdated information being used in decision making, which can negatively impact business operations. CDC solution, by capturing change as they happen and replicating them immediately, CDC reduce the time it takes for change to propagate through a system, thereby minimizing data latency. Then after that, another question he asked, means like 20th number question he asked, what is CDC? What is CDC? You heard many of the people's you are working with the databases and other things. You know the things. CDC stand for what is SCD? What is SCD? So SCD stands for slowly changing dimension. It is a concept in data warehouse that refer to how you manage and store historical changes in dimension table, which typically contain descriptive attribute like customer name, address, or product detail over time. So there are six type of CDC. I am going to six to seven, six type mainly. I'm going to explain what all the types of CDC here. So CDC type 0 means passive method. So description in this here, no changes are tracked. The data remain as it was originally loaded. Use case when historical data is not required and only you only care about the most current data. Then we are going with the SCD type 0, that is a passive mode. Another part is came like a SCD type 1 description. The old data is overwritten with the new data, no history preserved. No history preserved. So use case when you don't need to track change and it is acceptable to lose the old data, then we are going with the SCD type 1. Another part, SCD type 2. SCD type 2. So in this SCD type 2, the description is this: a new record is added each time there is a change, with the old record preserved for historical reference. This type keeps a full history of changes. So use case when you need to track the full history of changes, tracking a for example, tracking a customer's address change over a time. So this is the SCD2. How we'll implement? So implementation means typically this involve adding column like start date, end date, and a flag to indicate that the record is current version. So suppose I have a table and there is one employee name, employee ID, and address, city, mobile number. So if I'm going to and I will give the one two more column. Either we can add only one column. Either we can start add these three column like start date and end date and a flag. So I will add a flag. Flag means for active or inactive. I for active and active and inactive. A active and I for inactive. So what we can do while we are updating, suppose I want to update the mobile number of the customer employee. He has changed the mobile number. Then in this case, I will insert one new record and will make a I insert in one new record if and based on the ID column, and will update the new I will insert one new row in the particular table and update the flag as the active, and will write one more trigger part. So if it is I update we are updating any column in any record in a table, if it is exist on there, so old record become as a inactive. So this way we can handle the SCD type. This way we can handle the SCD type. So what is the SCD type 3? So means previous value tracking. So the SCD3 is nothing but description. Only the previous value of the attribute is stored alongside with the current value. This typically track limited history, usually one level of history on there. So use case when you need to compare the current value with the previous one but don't need a full history, storing the current and previous department for an employee. So suppose you frequently there are different flow, and every flow you are updating a table. So sometimes you see that the data discrepancy. So you have created a history table. So if you are going to update a new old record, so you are going to keep the old record in another table, history table, and after keeping that record, then you are going to update the main table. So if you feel that there is some issue with the current data, so you want to check the what is the previous data, so on that table, history table, what we are we have done in our previous organization. We have added while loading into the history table, there is a one more table, we have one more column we have written history load date. Through that we can we have, by default it is loading the current date on which date the history is going to update it. So we can check the that day data and compare the today's data, and we can identify this is the issue, this is the record. If there is an issue, we can restore the things from there on there. So implementation, how additional column are added to store the previous value, or we can the whatever way I have suggested that you can use that one. So no, no, no. That is a different thing. I think that whatever I have suggested you, it is come in the history table. So SCD type 4 description history data is moved to a separate history table, and the main table hold only the current data. So whatever I told you, example, this come under this history table. So use case when you want to keep a clean and simple dimension table while still preserving history in a separate table, then we can use a CD type 4. Now there is another 1 minute. 5 is, I think, I have, this is the 5 one, not a 6. 1 minute. So this is the 5 one. By mistake I typed 6 here. So 5 one, a combination of SCD 5 hybrid means combination of SCD 1 2 3. It typically involve tracking current version, historical record, and previous value with the same table. Use case when you need comprehensive tracking of changes, including full history and the ability to compare current and previous value, then we are going to use this SCD type 5. So why we are using, another question he asked, why use SCD? So SCD are essential in data warehouse and business intelligence because they allow organization to maintain the actual history data, which is crucial for reporting, trend analysis, and understanding how certain attribute change over a time. How certain attribute change over a time. How certain attribute change over a time on there. Now I'm going to another question which were asked. Okay, so suppose interviewer going to ask, one question asked, it is very important question he asked me on there. So I will let you know how I have handled and how I have given the answer. So let's assume you have a 10 file in Amazon S3 folder. File name is file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, file 5, file 6, file 7, file 8, file 9, file 10. So you have to use PySpark databricks and load with file these file one by one ascending order. Like first file 1, then file 2, then file 3, then file 4, then file 5, then file 6, then file 7, then file 8, then file 9, then file 10. And the question is that the file, all files came in the same time, not after some time, not after some time. It's all files came sometime on there, same time on there. So in this case you have to we will receive this file at the same time on there. So I will let you know what is the purpose of this doing. So in the first file contained record Abhishek Tripathi, name DB, date of birth is 1990, and because in starting first file date of birth was printed and third file will come with the updated detail like Abhishek Tripathi, date of birth is 991, that is updated one. So then if you load all file together, you will not able to figure out which file is updated one and which file has a first load and file is a contain wrong detail. So for this analysis we have to use we have to write a one approach. Through that one approach we can identify this thing. So first step for doing analysis, first step, list and sort file. First, list all the file in the S3 folder or any folder where you have given and ensure they are processed in the ascending order. You have to ensure the ascending order. Load files one by one. Load each file subsequently based on the sorted file name. Identify update record. Use a primary key like the person name or ID and a timestamp or versioning strategy to update records with the most recent detail. Then apply the merge logic and implement logic to update record if a more recent version is found in later files. So here, so file is this up. I have imported this Spark session and imported the necessary function on there. So I have created the Spark session. Then what I'm going to do, list all the files path in S3. Assume you have a path and you generate them dynamically. So I have listed all the files, whatever given here, you can see that I have list all the create a list for particular that one file, whatever file is given, and listed all the files initially and empty data frame to store the final result. So I have created a one data frame with that contain the none, no value on there. Then process each file one by one. Then what can I do, I will apply the for loop, and through the for loop I have up sorted the file list, whatever file list I have given I have sorted, and then load the current file first, then load the current file, whatever is giving file here I'm going to load here. So I will give the spark.read.csv file, I will give it the header true and schema true. Oh, it is required on there. Then assume we have a column name dob in each file, the date of birth in each file are there. So what can we do, if final df is null, so I will check this, if there is no value in this, so first time, this is a first time load, then whatever current df I have created I will store into the final df. If it is not a null, it is already created, then I will perform the merge logic. We assume name is the unique identifier and we update based on the date of birth. So what can I do, I will store data in final df and I will call this final df dot join whatever current df I am getting through the loop on outer join based on the name. Then I will select name column and current data current df, whatever data birth in current df I will use this one as updated dob. Then what I will store into the I will store into the I will merge. I merge into the data frame, store in the final data frame. Then I will going to show the things. So this way we can handle this type of issue on there. So this is the question. One of the tricky question in this fourth number video, and another question he asked from whatever question asked he another in related to SQL. So suppose you have a what is the difference between delete and truncate? So he asked me what is the difference between delete and truncate. So I simply told first for delete is a DML data manipulation language, and delete truncate is a DDL data definition language. So delete row one deletes row one at a time, and truncate remove all row from a table instantly. Okay, so we can use a where clause to delete a specific rows, but we cannot use a where clause to delete any specific row. We can all rows are deleted at one time. So logs individually deletion in transaction log is available, but minimal logging only log page deallocation is available for truncate. Scan whatever we have deleted using delete keyword, so we can roll back, but we cannot roll back the mm, uh, roll back the whatever we have truncated. Activates trigger if defined. It's if I have a trigger available for this table, so it will activate trigger in delete, but truncate after truncating we cannot update activated any trigger on there. So does not reset identity auto increment column, does not reset. So suppose I have auto increment column and I want to reset it after deletion, we cannot reset, but in after truncate we can receive, we can reset on there. So slower for large database, if I am working with a large database I want to really perform the delete keyword, so it is slower compared to the truncate. So another question he asked, which is faster, delete or truncate? And which is faster, delete or truncate? So simply I told him truncate is faster than delete because truncate does not log individual rows deletion. It only logs the location of the pages. Make it is much more efficient for larger table. Deletion process rows one by one and log every action, which take more time and resources on there. Then another question he asked, difference between primary key and unique key. So I simply told primary key ensure uniqueness for each row in the table, and unique key also ensure uniqueness but can allow one null value. In primary key we cannot allow any null value, cannot contain null value. You can see they can contain a single null value demand depending on the database on there. So another question, another part, automatically creates a cluster index if not specified otherwise. Created a non-cluster index by default. So when we are working with the primary key, it's automatically created a cluster index. When we are working with the unique key, it automatically created a non-cluster index on there. So used to uniquely identify a row in a table, identify a table, ensure uniqueness is one or more column, but not necessarily the primary identifier. Only one primary key is allowed for table, but multiple unique key can be defined on a table. Another question he asked, can we have multiple primary keys? Can we have multiple primary keys in a table? So I simply told, no, a table can have only one primary key. However, the primary key can consist of multiple columns. We can say it as a composite key, but you cannot define more than one primary key concept on a particular table. Then he asked another questions, difference between not in and not exist, which one is performance oriented and why? Which is performance oriented and why? So I simply told not in means check if value do not exist in a list or first it will check if values do not exist in a list or subquery, but not exist check if rows does not exist in a correlated subquery on there. Can return incorrect result if nulls are present in the subquery, not in subquery. Handle null values, not in handle null values correctly and return the right result. So not in slower with the larger data set and subqueries with the null. More efficient in larger database with correlated subquery. In not in best for more database or non-correlated subqueries, but not exist best for correlated subqueries and larger data set. Right now I'm going to talk about the performance oriented part. Not exist is generally more performant than not in, especially when dealing with a larger data set, because not exist stop searching after finding a matching row, while not in continuous checking all values in subquery. Make it slower, particularly if null values are present on there. So this is the answer for the not in not exist difference and which one is performance oriented. Now he asked difference between cluster and non-cluster index. So simply I tell on that time cluster index physically rearrange the data row to match the index. Only one cluster index per table. Faster per query retrieving a range of data. Best when data retrieval is based on the range or primary key. And non-cluster index does not alter the physical order of a data, maintain a separate index on there. And multiple non-cluster indexes can be created, but one cluster index is a per table on there. Slower compared to the cluster index, but more flexible. Best when extract matching or searching on non-key column is needed on there. So another question he asked on there, you have mentioned one physical order. What is the physical order in index? He asked me what is the physical order in a index. So physical order in a context of indexing refer to how the actual data rows are stored on a disk in relation to the index. This concept is especially relevant for cluster index, which directly affect the physical arrangement of the data on there. So here's how it works. Cluster index. A cluster index determines the physical order of a data rows in a table. When you created a cluster index on a table, the row are sorted and stored based on the indexes column. Physical order. What is the physical order? Physical order means that the actual table data is rearranged on a disk to match the order defined by the cluster index. Example, you have a created cluster index on a column like employee ID. The data rows in the table will be physically stored in ascending order or descending order based on the employee ID. This help improve query performance when searching or sorting by the this indexing column. So non-cluster index, I'm talking about non-cluster index. So non-cluster index on the other hand does not affect the physical order of the data rows. Instead, it maintains a separate structure like a tree that point to the data rows in the table. The data rows will remain in the original unsorted order. Example, if you created a non-cluster index on the last name column, the index will maintain on order list of the last name, but the actual data rows in the table are not rearranged in a specific order related to last name. So key difference: cluster index alters the physical order of the rows to match the index. Non-cluster index leave the physical order unchanged but create a separate ordered structure for the faster access. This is why a table can only have an one cluster index, since the data can only be physical order in one way, but can be multiple non-cluster indexes on there. So another question he asks, let's assume we have we have a duplicate in a table. You have to maintain uniqueness in a table. You need to delete all those record from the table. So simply first, my first question is with him. Then I have asked to the interviewer regarding the key column or not. So simply, if you are giving the you are asking to maintain the uniqueness in a table. So first tell me the what is the key column on particular table. If we don't have a key column, so simply what we can do it, simply we will create a we will create a uniqueness on the column on there. So first, using distinct to delete duplicates. So create a new table with a unique record. You can create a new table that contain only unique record using the distinct keyword and copy those record into the new table and drop the old table or rename the new table after creating the new table with a unique record. You can drop the old table and rename the new table to maintain your data without duplicate. You understand? So another part is group by to identify duplicate and delete. So simply I will write a keyword delete from your table where id not in. Then I will write one select statement. In this select statement, what will use your table name, group by the key column, whatever key column, and select the detail, required detail. Another approach is using a self join. Then what we can do, delete t1 from your table, delete t1 from your table here, and you join with a table 2. Then based on the key column and we can identify and will apply the delete statement. So this is the final part I have completed. I'm requesting you, please like and subscribe my channel, and please share my channel. If you have any suggestion, you can please drop a message. I can try to improve my approach.